welcome
Yes,
again to the Data plus Maps Tableau user group. This is something that we started last year, and we've been going on for, I think this is the third or fourth time. I can't remember. Welcome anyway from all over the world, as usual. That's why we love to do this, because we get people from everywhere, and we love maps. So we will be sharing a link in the chat where you can fill in where you are signing in from, because we have a map, of course, that Mr. Professor Dennis Cow will be updating after the session. I'm not sure if he's joining today, because he's hopefully still asleep this morning. But thank you everyone for joining. This user group consists of, hi Teddy, you are there, right? From Indonesia, if I'm not mistaken. Right. We have George from the middle of Europe. We have me from the top of Europe in Norway, and then we have Dennis in Canada. So we are always looking for more people to join, to present at these events. We know that there's a lot of people who have the same passion about maps, spatial data that we do. Already got several people reaching out with some interesting topics. So just pay attention to the upcoming events as well. I sent you this link already. So that please sign in, just fill in where you're signing in from, and then we'll see if we manage to update the map by the end of today. So these are the smiling people that are running this user group. Two of us are here now. George will join in very soon. He's a bit late. Dennis might wake up and join us as well, if he hasn't already. We're going to record this. It's going to be available on the webpage on Bevy. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be all over the place. If you have any questions, put them in the Q&A or use the chat, and then have fun. So that was the quick introduction, I guess. We don't need to spend much time on doing the same thing again and again. Just go back and watch a different recording of the introduction. But what we tend to do in these Data plus Maps user groups is that first we do a spotlight of a DataFam member. Today we are going to Japan. Hideaki is here, and then we are switching back to London to mind the gap and the map, where Lorna is going to show us how to use Tableau to do some spatial data. Of some localized London data, and Andy has promised that he will send a lot of questions peppering her throughout. So feel free to use the Q&A, and we'll be monitoring and posting those forward to Lorna, and of course to Hideaki as well if you have any questions. And then we have a open forum in the end, as usual. If you have any particular questions, if you have anything that you're struggling with when it comes to maps, to spatial data, you can ask the user group leaders. You can ask everyone else in here, because there's so many brilliant people I've already seen on the guest list in here. So this is the plan. And Teddy, do you want to do the spotlight and the questions for Hideaki? I can show the, if I manage to click on this button. Well, I mentioned the speakers already, but we have Hideaki's public profile in here. He's done a lot of amazing maps or visualization with maps in them. I'm going to put in the link to his profile in the chat as well. So please follow him and see what other exciting things he will have coming up. So then I'll keep this in the background. And then we have Hideaki here. Teddy, do you have the questions? And can ask these, or do you want me to do it? You see, we haven't prepared that well or planned.
Thank you, Rode. Hi, Hideaki. I would consider your portfolio one of the most complete and beautiful Tableau pages there is. And could you talk us to your process of design? Is it analytically, map style, chart style, or design driven to start? Thank you.
Map style. Wait a minute.
Right. It's okay.
Can I ask again, please?
Could
Yeah,
you please?
Teddy's going off script, so he doesn't go from the first question that we had there. That's probably why you get a bit confused in here, but that's fine. It's about the can you share something about your style?
Yeah. Sorry.
Right.
Or do you want to go from the first one? We can go from what makes you tick. Why do you use
Oh,
Tableau, and what makes you tick and have fun with Tableau? Let's start there.
sorry. I I use Tableau and I enjoy making new discoveries. So I like to try many different things. For example, I often take part in Makeover Monday project, and it's full of new discoveries for me. And just looking at the data is always amazing. I think the challenge often uses data from English-speaking countries like the US or the UK. Since I live in Japan and I I sorry I usually only speak Japanese, and the data is often completely new to me. And there's so many discoveries, so I never get bored. Um, Um, for example, there was a challenge with data about popular Steam games a few months ago. I don't play video games very often, so I didn't play most of the games. There are some games I hadn't heard of in Japan, so the data was really interesting. Uh, Mm, and I can learn fun and easy to understand design ideas from others. This is one reason I can keep going. Uh, I really think the design skills of everyone in the data farm are amazing. Yeah. Mm, uh, well, I think I could do the same kind of things using tools other than Tableau, but still, Tableau is the tool I know and feel most comfortable with. Mm, Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we can follow up on that one then. You mentioned a bit about it since you were doing some of these community projects as well when it comes to inspiration, right? That even though you find data, or I guess that's a challenge for you coming from Japan as well. There's not maybe that much of data or data in the general community, at least. I guess you have public data sources and stuff like that you can work on. But inspiring that even though you don't know about these particular games or whatever that's available, you still try to challenge or try to find some insight into it. So in that context, well, you talked a bit about what inspires you, but do you have any favorite maps that you, of course, of your own or of someone else that have been published that you see on Tableau Public or any other resources?
Generally, I like mesh maps or heat maps. They can show how people live in a more accurate way. When I was a university student, I studied human geography and learned about the connection between people and space. And one thing I realized that it's hard to show where people really are using all the administrative boundaries. Some cities are large, some are small, and some have strange shapes. And that's why I think mesh maps and heat maps are useful. They are not limited by those borders, and they make it easier to show what I want to say. Well, preparing the data is a lot of work, though. I remember that one of last year's Back to Basics challenge was about showing how icebergs move using a heat map. It wasn't about human movement, but I really enjoyed that challenge. And when it comes to Tableau, I like to show a full map in the background and overlay other chart and text. If the tone is the first time one of my BZs was picked as Bees of the Day in the slide What's Hokuriku, it also had a map as a background. Thank you.
Yeah, I just put it into the chat. We can also see it on the screen here on the left side, where you have combined the map. Looks like it's a background map, right? And then you have the visualizations and the data next to it as well. And I like the colors that it fits pretty good in as well. And this now we can go back to the first question as well, because you have had some viz of today. You have created a lot of different things on your profile, and of course you probably are doing something on your day-to-day job as well. But can you share? Do you have any preference on your style? Do you have any tips, tricks, or hints, or something that we can learn from as well when it comes to your style when you're building dashboards and maps in Tableau?
Oh, okay. My style. I try not to use the same colors all the time, and I always want to discover something new. So try to not use the same colors. Still, after trying many options, I often end up choosing the same colors again. In Tableau, I tend to pick the lightning light color palettes I like. And for fonts, I usually stick to similar ones. Lately, my favorite is Poppins. Poppins are cute, and I like it. I hope Tableau Public will add more fonts someday. And I also often create dashboard that can switch between English and Japanese. In Japan, not many people are comfortable with English, and worldwide, not many can read Japanese, and because I want to share my work with many people. So when I have enough time, I add a parameter so viewer can choose the language. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great idea as well. I mean, I live in Norway, and we still have the all button, right, on the filters. And in Norwegian, it's not all, it's alle with an e in the end, and then you need to either create parameters or do some workaround, or you can change the entire Tableau desktop into Swedish, which is even worse than having it in English. So that doesn't work. But I remember one of the things that they showcased at TC was the very easy way of switching between different languages as well. So that will probably make your life easier as well when you're going to do something in English and Japanese. Then, do you have any favorite tips or tricks that you do when you're building or using Tableau that you would like to share?
Okay. I think map layers have definitely expanded what I can do in Tableau. I like using map layers for non-map visualizations. There might be people who don't really like using that feature outside of maps, but I use it. I often use them to draw ruled lines and that are not straight. Recently, I used map layers to draw circular lines. When we can also use background images to make rule lines, but I think using map layers is easier, and because we don't have to worry about matching the image size. Uh, Lately, I've been playing around with Tableau's animation features. Uh, I don't think business intelligence tools always need the animations when markets move, but in Tableau, it's possible, and I found it really interesting. I keep thinking of new ideas because I just can't let this go to waste. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thank you as well. The map layers, I think that was Chris's first comment in here when he signed in, just map layer everything. And that's the amazing thing when Tableau added these map layers. I'm not sure if they thought about, well, now you can add whatever you want to a map, and then everyone else went, well, screw this map. I'm going to use this map layer to create whatever else I want on the canvas. And there's been so many interesting and cool features and results out of that. So that's just gonna continue, I think, when people discover the opportunity or challenge the opportunity of the canvas as well. So that's gonna be fun. Last question. What is your guilty pleasures, or do you have any fun facts to share at the end?
Oh, okay. When I used to like Tableau, I often think, how could I hack this tool in a creative way? Of course, I don't do anything bad. For example, Tableau can do geocoding, uh, but I wonder where it get the geographic data from. So I've looked through various files in Tableau's installation directory. Thanks to that, I've learned a lot about how the tool works behind the scenes. Thank you.
And are you then doing anything with this? Are you creating some API or something that others can use, or is it more for your own hacking in the background?
So.
Just challenging you in the end here. We maybe see something from you in the future where we can get some of this secret information that you have in the back. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your answers and inspiration, and see that you have a lot of followers already on public, but I hope that you have more, or even more of today, and maybe there will be even more of this of today from your side as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
George, are you awake? I'm just gonna see that he's here, but if he's also ready to take over. No, he's probably laying on a beach somewhere, just signing in. That's so typical my other hosts, right? So, hi Lorna, welcome.
Hello.
A true inspiration from a fellow Tableau tip battle challenger over the years. Luckily, we didn't meet head to head this year in TC, but it's always an inspiration to meet up with this Tableau speed tip Hall of Famer, I guess we can call you now after all these years, right?
Yeah, I'll pass the button down, that's for sure.
Yeah. So it's really fun to have you here, and then since you also are doing a lot of these challenges, and of course all of these tips, you have now the key topic of today, where we have, by the help of AI, found the best title ever: Mind the Gap and the Map, Spatial Fun with London Data. So you want to introduce the concept and everything that you will be going through now?
Yeah, sure. I will share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go and walk through a live build of a Workout Wednesday that I did last year for our DataFam Europe session. It does have some spatial data in it, and it has some other tips and tricks to sort of like get the most out of your maps. But before I do that, I am going to talk a little bit about what is Workout Wednesday. So hopefully a few of you on the call, if not most of you, have heard of Workout Wednesday before. But Workout Wednesday is a weekly challenge where we as hosts will post a challenge out, and it'll have a set of requirements, a dashboard that you then have to rebuild and recreate using the data and the requirements that we set. Now, obviously, the fun side of things is the spatial data. I have enjoyed doing so many different spatial Workout Wednesdays in the past. But just to let you know who our other contributors are. So you've got myself, Lorna Brown, we have Sean Miller, Erica Hughes, Cal Yetta, Yoshi Arakawa, Donna Coles, and Yasuki Nakashini. So we have 6 of us that regularly post content, and you can take part sort of like on a weekly basis, and you get to learn new things. Like one of the latest challenges was about the new multi-fact data sets or data sources. So you get to know a little bit more about multi-fact, and then we do try and do some new features, and also just focusing in on some of the old features as well, so you can use them on a regular basis. So it started in 2017 by obviously the one and only Andy Kriebel, which allows me to definitely get heckled by him today. So I'm waiting for the comments in the chat. But there are over 380 challenges so far, and it's going to keep growing and growing because we're constantly putting out new challenges. Some of the reasons why you should participate, it's because you can test your own skills, learn how to build new things in Tableau, take those methods and also put them into real problems at work. Like a lot of people have turned around to us and said that they've been able to implement some of the challenges that we set into their work environment. But it's also about learning together with the community. So you can do it again inside your work environment, or on the Tableau community Slack channel. There is a Workout Wednesday group that you can then join and post some challenges or some questions in there. And some other sort of like spatial data, we're not building this one today, but we have got some other like London-based projects. So looking at rebuilding tube maps, so starting and ending and kind of seeing how many stops along the way and how do you build that in Tableau. But then also the generic sort of like flight data and having a look at a hub and spoke map and how much easier it is now with the map layers. So today's challenge is that we're going to look at this one. So it's the London attractions. Now, obviously, you can see there's a small map in the middle, but there's also other hints and tips along the way in terms of how do we actually get that map to the functionality that we need it to have. So if I just switch over to my actual Tableau workbook. So in here, what we can do is we can select a specific attraction. And why is it being so slow today? Normally this slow. Okay, so you pick a specific attraction. It will then give you how many miles from a certain location. So from the Tower of London, that's what the buffer is all about. It'll show the top 5 closest tube stations, but it'll also then show the top 5 closest attractions as well to give you a little bit more inspiration, so you can kind of potentially use this to plan your routes and plan where you want to go and how you want to what you want to visit whilst you're in London. So I'm going to start by opening up Tableau Desktop, and we're going to just grab our data and put that in. So this challenge was also part of a prepping data challenge at the time. Now the prepping data was just to clean up the data set a little bit, but on the website, on the Workout Wednesday website itself, you can also find out the prepping data challenge as well. So with the data set that we have, we've got tube locations, we've got attraction locations, and we've got attraction footfall. So we're going to start with our attraction locations, and you'll see that we've got attraction name, and then we've got latitude and longitude. We then want to join that into our attraction footfall, and that'll be based on attraction name to attraction, so that we can see that we've got the footfall for the past 5 years, and that's going to be forming one of our bar charts. Now, the other thing that we want to do is we want to have a look at other locations. Now, if you go to Donna Cole's blog, she will show you that there's a way to do this without doing this next step, but that does require level of detail calculations, whereas I potentially find this next section a little bit easier. So if I drag in another attraction locations one, I'm going to rename this to other attractions. And I'm just going to use the relationship here to say that attraction name does not equal attraction name, which will then give me all of the other attractions apart from the one that's inside the original location. You could also potentially use some spatial calculations in here. You can't do that on relationships though, so you would have to do that via a join instead of doing a relationship. So we're going to stick to using relationships. And then for tube locations, again, for this one, I'm just going to do a relationship calculation of 1 to 1. Just so that we get all of the attraction locations mapped against all of the tube locations, and we can use Tableau's filtering to be able to bring them through and make it nice and easy for us. So we come into Tableau, we've got our data set ready. There's a couple of things that I need to do to make use of the map layers. So I'm going to put selected attraction, and that's just going to be my make point of my attraction latitude to my attraction. Oh, no, not that one. Attraction longitude. And then we can just start by double clicking and bringing that in. And then we have our attraction name. So we can kind of see all of the individual attractions. I'm going to then create a parameter, which was then looking at the individual elements themselves. So I'm just going to call this select attraction. And then I'm just going to quickly create a true false calculation so that we can just focus in on the one that we want, which is just my attraction name, or attraction equals my selected attraction. Oh, no, can't do that. True false. So then when I just add that under true, obviously this is only going to bring back my single point, and it's going to make it super, super zoomed out. And the reason being is because Tableau only has one mark and it doesn't know the distance that you kind of want to represent. This is where like a buffer can come in. So I'm going to create a parameter to just call this buffer. And I'm going to have float and range between 0.5 to 2 with a step size of 0.5. And I'm going to create that buffer range. So if I create my buffer around my selected attraction, so we're going to use the buffer functionality, it's going to be with my buffer. Sorry, no, it's going to be around my selected attraction with the buffer, and it's going to be in miles. So then when I can add that onto my mark layer, you'll see that then I get that zoomed in approach. I can now reduce the opacity. I'm going to move it down one so it's behind. And then I'm also going to turn off the disable selection so that I don't, oh, I disabled the wrong one. Disable that selection and bring this one up and re-enable selection. So now when I can see the buffer, but I can't exactly click on the line or the buffer mark itself. The other thing that I am going to be able to do is, yes, it's meters, but it's miles in the UK, so it's all good. Miles, meters, same things, but a bit more. But so the other thing that I like to do on this one is sometimes that's a little bit too zoomed in. I want to be able to see some things that are inside that buffer of the 0.5 miles away, but I want to be able to also see stuff that's outside of that buffer as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my buffer calculation and go buffer 1.5 times. And I'm just going to times my buffer by 1.5, not that, 1.5. Click OK. And then again, I can add that in so that I've got that little bit more of a range. I can move it down to the bottom. And again, I can get rid of that opacity. I can turn off the border and I can disable the selection as well. So again, it just makes it zoom out a little bit more. And it'll allow us to just see everything that we want to look at. So other things that we want to do is we want to create our make point for stations. So we want make point station latitude to station longitude. And then we can add that onto our mark layers with our station names. And then finally, we want our other attractions. So then we've got make point, attraction, latitude, attraction, nope, longitude. Make point. And then again, we can add that in. So we've got all of our layers that we need now. So I'm just going to change these ones to red so that we can kind of know the difference. And then I'm going to put this one to be a shape. And it should then be a star so that we can see where our original attraction is and change that color. Okay, so we can kind of see how we're building this up. So then we can keep building as we go. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to basically keep everything that's inside the 1.5 times the buffer, whether that's the tube stations or whether that is the attraction names themselves. So let me just put that onto detail. Now, one of the calculations that I like to use is the intersect function. Intersect. I can't spell this morning. So the intersection function allows you to look at a buffer and then it'll allow you to put all of those points inside. So we want to say intersect the buffer to the other attractions, or we want the intersection of the buffer to the station points as well. So we allow this to have the two questions in mind. So when we can then put that onto our filters, we should then get a true or false. once it loads, just because it's querying all of the different data sets. There's a lot of tube stations in here, so it will just take a little bit of time. I can see some questions in the chat about the multiple data sources or using a single one. I guess it just depends on what you're trying to do. So if I click true and click OK, again, just give that a second to load. Depends on how much data source you have and whether you're going to be duplicating the number of rows that you have, which is why relationships are really good, because you'd end up duplicating your attractions based on the latitude and longitude of each stations. Okay, so my OR statement didn't work. I always get my ORs and ANDs mixed up. So we're going to go for AND instead. And let's make sure that this one works instead. And then if not, I've got my buffers and my stations and attractions in the wrong direction. So fingers crossed. If not, I will show you one I made earlier just to make sure that I am doing the right thing. Clearly, Andy is throwing me off as per usual. Come on, tablet. There we go. So we need to make sure that we use the AND function, not the OR. So again, the AND is because we're using the relationships, we want it to make sure that we're filtering to the stations and to the selected attractions. So we can kind of see that these are all inside our buffer, but they're also inside our 1.5 times on the outside. Now, some of the little things before I carry on doing my maps, I want to have a look at my attraction. And I want the 5-year footfall, just so then we can get a bar chart. And then we can also add in our true false to show which particular one that we're selecting on. And then let me just change that to a minimum, because then we've got the right value. And then I want to have a look at like the distance between selected attractions and other attractions themselves. So we want to have a look at the attraction name. And then I want to create a distance. So again, we can use the distance function. So the distance between our selected attraction to our other attractions. And we again want to make sure that that is in miles for now. And we can put that on here. I'm going to change it to a minimum. And I'm then going to put my selected attraction true false onto my filters. And you'll see now that we have that the British Museum is the closest to whichever attraction we've selected, which is the British Library. So I'm going to switch this parameter to show St. Paul's, because outside of my window, pretty much outside my window, I can see St. Paul's itself. So we can see that St. Modern is the closest, followed by Barbican, Somerset House, and South Bank Centre, etc. I only want to be able to see the top 5, or I want to be able to see a given range. So you can either do this using rank and then filter by the rank, or you can use it by sets as well. So I'm going to do it by sets. So I'm going to create a set, use all, and I'm going to do the top. Let's just do 5 for this pure example on distant attractions, and then the minimum. So this is the bottom 5, and I'll switch this to bottom. Click OK. And then when I add that into my filters and add my filter to context, you'll see that I'm back to my Tate Modern, Barbican, Somerset House, etc. And I'm going to create the rank. In fact, we don't need rank for this one. We do need rank for stations in just a minute. So I'm going to repeat the same for our stations. So we're going to create a calculated field called distance to stations. And my typing is terrible. So we're going to go from the selected attraction to the stations point, again in miles. You can also use a parameter in here to change that bit at the end of your distance and in any of your buffers as well. So you can, the options are MI, M, KM, or T, I think is the other option. So you can use a parameter to then change what specific distance you're then looking at. So if I add in my station name and I add in my distance to station, again, change that to minimum, put my selected attraction in true, and put this down. So obviously at St. Paul's, you'd like to think that the distance to St. Paul's station is very minimal. So you can see that the top 5 again. So we're going to repeat the set option. So we're going to go create set on our station, use all, top, but then use the bottom and do the bottom 5. Bottom 5 stations, click OK. Add that to my filters. So again, make sure that we add to context so we get the right ones back. So we can see that we've got St. Paul's, Mansion House, Blackfriars, Cannon Street. Now, one of the things that if I go back to my example, and in my tube stations, I've got letters instead of my rank. Just because I wanted to be potentially a little bit more fancy to sort of put A, B, C, D, E on my map, so that you can kind of relate those numbers to the location or the letters to the location on the map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a rank calculation. So we're going to go rank the minimum of the distance to stations. And this is going to be in ascending order. And I'm going to make that discrete just so then I don't have to convert it when it goes onto my rows. And you'll see then we've got the 1 to 5 on here. Now, what I can also do is I'm going to go over this one. And in here, we're going to use a function called char. And at the end of my rank, I'm going to do a char plus 64 and close that off. So what this is doing is this is basically taking those numbers and converting them into letters. The reason that we use the plus 64 is because if you look at the example, char 65 is the letter A. So if we add 64 onto 1, that would give us the letter A. So then you can see that we've then got rank A, B, C, D, E, and E. And we only want to be able to have this for when the rank is 5 or below. So we want to potentially add some other filters to this. So we need to go back to our map because we want to be able to see the 5 stations, and then we want to see the 5 other attractions. So it's because I changed the option to St. Paul's, but if I just click back, so you can see here that we've got the 5 that are in the set, the 5 that are in the set here are given the labels, and then the rest of them are all sort of like outside in slightly smaller option here. So what we want to do is we can also say that for this one, we only want them to appear if it's in the set. So we can say if the bottom 5 stations, then give me that answer. And then it's going to give nothing at the end of it. And I need to do the minimum of my set to make this work because we're using the min distance in our calculation. So then when I go to my tube stations, let's change these back to circles. And if I put that rank onto label, you will see in just a second when it loads that it should pop up with the bottom 5 once I put this into context. And once I compute using station. So there we go. We've got our A, B, C, D, and E is there as well. Just make our circles a little bit bigger and then allow labels to overlap and go center and center. Obviously, you can then clear this up with a bunch more formatting on here. But we also then want to decrease the size of ones that are outside the circle. So if I go back into this, you'll see that inside the circle are fairly big and then outside the circle are a little bit smaller. So that's where we can we can either use the set that we have. So sometimes I put the set onto size, which will then decrease the size of everything that is outside of that bottom 5. Or you can use the buffer option to be able to then minimize and change some of those options as well. So let's just, my in and outs are the wrong way around. So if I just reverse them, you can then see that we're then just focusing in on the 5 that are in the rank. But I just want them to be bigger for when they're inside that circle, initial one, compared to the outside. So again, we can then use that intersects option. Let's call this size. So we want the intersect of the buffer, the normal buffer without the 1.5, and the stations. And click OK. And then we can add that onto size. And then hopefully in just a second, that will then show you that anything that's outside of the main buffer area will then be a little bit smaller. Might have to sort the in and outs again, but that are trues and falses. Just give that a second. I think one of the things for me with this one is that it is a little bit slow, and I am aware of that, but I think that's just due to the data processing and doing the one-to-one relationship. So you might be better off potentially joining in the station data or trying to make it as a hyper file so that your make point is already created in your data set rather than using Excel files. So we're kind of sort of somewhere near now. The next options would be that we can change the colors if we want to, or we can change the shapes, but I want to do some dashboarding and some formatting of our dashboard now. So if I go and create our dashboard, now I am going to use some containers. I'm going to put my first container in as horizontal, and then I'm going to put in my sheet 1, my sheet 2, and then I'm going to put in a vertical, and then I'm going to put my sheet 3, and then my sheet 4. Now, one of the things that I do with this one is when I double click through, I can then distribute those contents evenly because I want to make sure that they've got an even amount of space. And the same with this horizontal one, I can then distribute those contents evenly and make sure that these fit my entire view. So you can see that we're kind of getting somewhere now. On my original one, I do have a lovely orange background in here. So I'm going to go to dashboard, and I'm going to change this to like a pale orange. Now, one of the things that really bugs me about when I do formatting in Tableau is this background map doesn't necessarily go away straight away. To do that, if you go to map and then background layers, in here, all you need to do is uncheck the base option. And you need to uncheck the base, and then if you go right click on format, and then in your paint bucket, if you take off the default worksheet fill in, you can then see that the background of the map then just completely disappears, and you're left with something that's a little bit more elegant in your maps as well. So if I go back into my background layers, I can get rid of the terrain, I can get rid of any like immediate borders if I don't want the postcode boundaries, get rid of the coastline, and I can get rid of the line cover, and it kind of just makes it really nice and elegant and puts it in with the background of your actual dashboard. Now, one of the things that we can also do is on one of our worksheets, speaking of formatting, if I go and format this worksheet, so I'm getting rid of the borders, I'm making sure that my row and column dividers are turned off. And then also if I go to my grid lines and turn those off as well, and my axes rulers. Now this is sheet 2, so I'm going to go back here, I'm going to right click and go copy formatting. And then I'm going to click on sheet 3 and sheet 4, and I'm going to, clearly didn't quite copy formatting, so copy formatting. Can't do the duplicate, so I'm going to paste formatting on one and paste formatting on another. And then when I come back to the dashboard, you can see that the backgrounds has changed. but my row dividers hasn't quite removed, but that's because there was no row dividers on my other one. So therefore, when I take them off, I'm then left with a cleaner dashboard, and we can then obviously go through and take off the sheet titles and layer everything out over the top of it. Now, the last thing that I wanted to do is I want to give my user the option to select the attraction by clicking on here rather than clicking the drop down. So if we go to dashboard and then actions, what we can do is we can add a parameter action in here. Again, why it's useful to name all of your sheets. I want to go from my sheet 2 to my parameter of select an attraction by my attraction name. I'm just going to call this select an attraction. So one of the things that when we're thinking about setting up parameter actions is that you can do these at the worksheet level, or you can do them at the dashboard level. If you do them at the worksheet level, when you bring them into the dashboard, they're not going to work, and you're going to get frustrated with Tableau because you think it should work and it doesn't. If you are creating them at the worksheet level, sometimes it's a lot easier to then change the source sheets to say all or the data source itself. And that just means that whenever you use that worksheet in a dashboard or in a worksheet, that parameter action is going to maintain and stay there. And the only downside I find is that when I do it on the data source or the all level, whenever I use that attraction field in any of the other worksheets, it will then also update the attraction parameter. So pick your poison as to whether you want to have to recreate your actions multiple times or whether you want your actions to change every time you use that particular attraction name in there. So then when I click OK and OK again, if I then click on British Library, and again, just give this a little bit of time to reload, you can then see that my parameter action will change. It'll change to British Library. It'll change the map. It'll change the stations, and it'll change the attractions themselves. And yes, it is a bit slow. I do need to work on the actual loading time of this, but that was a future me problem. And I think that is pretty much everything that I had to talk about. Unless you want me to keep going with anything else, but I don't have anything else planned. So, Tori, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I saw that Andy had 200, and just to do one of them at least.
Sure.
That was the. Can you make the border thicker on the buffer? I guess he knows how to do it. That's why he's asking.
He knows how to do it, and it was a trick that was done in IronViz, I think, or it was done somewhere this recently. It is a trick. Do you add the actual border onto it?
Outline, he says in there.
Oh yes, the outline function. So with that, there is some more spatial functions in Tableau. So if you have a look in here, you've got quite a lot of different ones. So you've got area, buffer difference, intersection, intersects, length, but you also then have this outline function. So if I go outline of my buffer and click OK, and then I add that onto my mark layer, it's then going to give me a nice golden line around my buffer. It just makes it a little bit easier to see potentially rather than having a thin line on your border, because you can't change the thickness of your borders whenever you're editing on the action. And again, you can then resize that to make it even thicker. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, that's cool, but that's also the fun thing about these tricks, right? That somebody just pulls out of the sleeve, or somebody just by the accident discovers.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's always nice to add some more thicker border as well. But I get some flashbacks. So if you go back to your dashboard when you have this like yellow background color with the blue, I worked with a different partner before. That's also from the States, and the AdventureWorks data set, you might remember. And there was so many dashboards with this color combination from Microsoft that I get kind of but maybe that's the
supposed to be this
flashback.
color. It was supposed to be
Yeah.
this color. I just didn't want to
Yeah,
spend
because
loads of time
that's
doing all the
way
formatting.
nicer than that one. Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Get a Microsoft flashback.
Are there any other questions?
If there's any particular ones, you can still use the chat if some of you have any questions. Of course, there was the discussion of a relationship versus multiple data sources. Because when you joined everything now, it might be a bit slow, but also filters across. But you basically didn't use any filters, right? You just used parameters, so you could have used separate data sources, I guess.
Yeah, I could have done. The only thing with that is because of the stations not having the attraction name in it, I'd still have to do some sort of like spatial blend, which yes, there are, spatial parameters can make this work, but I think this challenge was done prior to using prior to spatial parameters being released. So it would be interesting to see if it would make it any quicker with spatial parameters going forward.
Yeah, and that's always if you go back 1 year in anything in Tableau these days, there's always some new features, right? That makes everything way faster or way easier instead of doing all this hacking that we do all the time. And then suddenly it's actually a feature of Tableau in the next release. And then you do training for some clients, and they are still on 2022.5 or 4 or something, and then it doesn't help.
Yeah.
There was someone, Joe, he's dropping out now, but he sent, there was a great resource for geospatial dataset, international one called GeoFabric. So there's a link in there.
Nice.
If you want to do something else than London, like for example, railway lines in Estonia. So that's, and that's also back to Hideaki's challenge, right? Where a lot of the stuff that you find on Tableau Public is either Superstore or at least in English, and making stuff more internationally available for others is always good. Yeah, blending. That's as also Andy says. That's the last resort, right?
Yes. No one really likes blends.
Yeah, but thank you for the walkthrough. And so for those people who already did this at DataFam Europe, I guess you have something more planned for the upcoming, not yet known date, place, DataFam Europe 2025.
Potentially, yes. I'm sure we'll do something similar.
Cool. Any other questions, comments? You can put it in there. I'm not sure if you're awake, Dennis, but have you managed to get an updated map of our participants?
Let me go check right now.
Yeah, and if not, we always have next meetup. We haven't decided the date or, well, the location is Bevy and virtual as always. But if you're interested in presenting, please let us know. We'll fill in this survey, and if we don't have room for you, there's 450 user groups across the world, right? So that's why we do this, to share and learn across. I don't think that we don't have anything more in particular. We have this open as usual Q&A. So if there's anyone that has any questions, that the user group team, Lorna, Hideaki, Andy is still here, I think. So if you have any particular questions, any stuff that you're struggling with when it comes to maps, please feel free to use the Q&A or the chat. And if you don't, you're satisfied, everybody's happy, then we're still planning on new stuff. I got an email or a message today from a guy at Tableau that said that Mapbox is doing something interesting that's coming up. But as I said to him, Ross Paulson, he also had a presentation here earlier. You're not allowed to present at the Data Plus Map user group unless you have fixed Norway. So Tableau eventually fixed Norway because there was something wrong with the states and municipalities there. Mapbox still hasn't done it. 1 year and 5 months after the change. So there's not going to be anybody from Mapbox presenting at the user group before it's fixed. That's like a personal crusade for me there. Okay, thank you again then to Hideaki and Lorna for presenting and joining. This will be available on the Bevy page and on YouTube soon when I have the recording and Chris has done his magic. So have a beautiful rest of this Wednesday and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.